Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast Coach's Corner Edition. Ready to boost your practice by 10,000 in just 10 minutes? Join your coaches, Jennifer and Tracy, for fast and proven strategies that drive real results. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and we turn them into super clinic owners. Today is Coach's Corner. You have me, Jennifer Gligoric and Tracey Sundkvist. We're both business consultants, coaches, and Tracy is also a neuroscience expert. And today we're going to help you get $10,000, and we only have about 10 minutes to do it. So let's dive right in. We're going to talk about effective leaders on this episode. So, how to be a better and more effective leader in your own business. And that's actually really hard for a lot of people. So, we're going to go over how effective leaders demonstrate integrity, self awareness, and a willingness to learn and adapt. And if you can foster those skills within yourself, you will be a better leader. Tracy, take it away.
Sure. What really brings me down is when people share that leadership is something that you are, and I just have to call like BS, because leadership is something that you do. Right?
Yeah.
Leadership is action. It's something tangible. And if it's not tangible, it means it's not happening. Right? Leadership is about making sure that your team knows what direction they're pulling. They're on board for the vision that you are creating. They know what is expected of them and how are they going to be rated according to those expectations. And they can understand the rules of the road. And if you're not doing leadership and you're just expecting everyone to magically be the best version of themselves, and you just kind of, park back and ride on that, then that's not going to go your way.
Yeah, you have to be purposeful. As purposeful as you are with saying, this is what I want. I want to start a business. What do I need to do? And you did all this research. Well, I would like to be an LLC. I've done all this research on the difference between an S Corp and a C Corp and all these other corps. And I feel like I'm going to do this. Or maybe you've decided to be in a partnership. You did a lot of research for this. Well, being a leader needs to be purposeful too. How am I going to show up every day? So when we talk about integrity, that's one of the things that we're talking about. How am I going to show up? If I'm not showing up properly, am I going to be self-aware? Am I going to own that for myself so they can see me, my team, owning that and understand that that is a core that I expect from them because I expect it from myself? Am I willing to learn? And also, will I adapt? Right? So a lot of times, if you are unable to do those things, then you have a hard time when other people try to show this. So you want employees to be able to willing to learn. You want them to be adapt. You also probably want them to innovate too and come to you with different things and say, hey, I think we found a better way. Boy, that is music to any good business owner's ears, right? You have? Tell me about it. What's the framework for that? If they come to you with something and it needs your investment, what do they have to do before they give you a wild idea? One of the things that we'll put with this episode is an idea meter. In fact, I will make sure that Danny attaches this to our school. And so an idea meter is an idea that you just say, hey, if you find a way that we can innovate, these are the things that you're going to need to do to come to me to seriously consider it and seriously consider investing in your idea. And it's not very hard. Is it relevant? Is this us? Is it something we do? Does this tie to a core value? What is actually going to add to the bottom line? You're going to ask them to actually vet their idea. This way, you're not constantly being bombarded, by things that just absolutely don't make sense. And then you get annoyed at those employees who are trying, but really they're not. They're just spitballing things. And sometimes it's their way of deflecting from actually fixing something that's broke because they don't want to do the extra work, right? So, little things like that pulling into place and being purposeful, but it's all in the mindset of how you're showing up every single day as a leader yourself and how you're doing this. And then also too, how you not so much confront, but when there is a challenge, if someone isn't meeting expectations, how are you communicating that with them? Tracy, can you talk about that?
Yeah, totally happy to go there. Something that jumped up for me before that was we cannot move away from the fact that one of the biggest competitive advantages that you can have in business is to have a really strong team. Now, what we very often see when we work with clients is that there's this emotional connection. But like they're family, they've been with me, they've been so loyal to me for 15 years, and you're like, okay, well, that's wonderful. How are they supporting your change initiatives? And there's like this like deer in the headlights kind of look, right?
Yeah.
Because yes, you want to have this wonderful a good relationship, but I have to say it also has to be a professional relationship, because you're not employing new family members for your business. You want to ensure that competitive advantage, which means you need to have an A team. And if you don't have an A team, you can't expect to play an A game, right?
Right.
So your responsibility is, how do I attract them? How do I nurture them? And then how do I unleash them in my business? That is your job as a leader.
Yeah, you want to talk about empowerment. How are they empowered to make things better? What happened last time someone did something to make things better? There are some atmospheres where, ooh, you just don't bring it up. Like that's going to get shot down. Do you do it publicly? Do you do it privately? There are things that you really have to think about on par with management, that you probably just hired them and you said, "We'll figure it out together." A lot of brand new business owners do that, and it's charming. And it's how we all start out in business, right? We'll figure it out together. Dawn, my new admin person that I hired to be admin and marketing and 10 other things because I'm so busy with patients, or I'm so busy fixing these cabinets, or whatever you're doing in your service based business. But that really can't be the way it is. At one point, you have to turn into an actual business and company. There has to be, scripts that they follow. There has to be standards. There has to be consistency so that every client gets a consistent experience. You can't be like, we hear them in reviews on Yelp. Just think about restaurants. I don't know who they hired this time, but it was the best place I ever went to, and now it sucks. Right. And then, right there, that's a management issue. There's no consistency. You hired somebody who is really good and they probably left because there's absolutely no consistency with it.
You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. So when clients come to us and they start positioning people problems, like I have this problem with this person or this team, it's never a people problem. It's always a leader problem, because it means you've identified there's something wrong, and what have you done? Everything you've done hasn't achieved the results that you needed to achieve to do things better. That's a leadership problem. That means, what do you need to focus on so that we can either correct the behavior, so we can get them showing up as an A team, or you replace. And I know it's not popular. It's not a popular take to say fire fast, but I'm saying fire as fast as possible, because you need to build your ability to know, what does talent look like, and how do I make sure that I nurture that talent, and again, I unleash it in my business. You're not there to hire and then to make sure that that person fits within your business. Like, no matter what happens to the business, when you grow, when you 10x, when you 100x your business, it's not about taking these people who've been with you forever and saying, well, I'm going to find a place for you now because you used to do that, but we don't do that anymore, so now I'm going to do this role for you. No, sorry, it doesn't work like that. You need to man up, sack up. You need to take responsibility and to know, this is what I want. This is the kind of team that I need, and this is how I need to show up so that I can deliver on that. Leadership,
And
it's, you do it, you have to do it. Maybe we should go to how we measure, Jennifer, because we're all about the measuring. How would you go about saying, okay, this is how you can measure leadership ability?
Well, and the leadership ability is directly related to all your other KPIs and benchmarks, right? However, communication is key. If you communicate well with an underperforming staff, they will self-select out. Very rarely will that person stay on if you are communicating, hey, we didn't hit the goals today. Our main purpose is to have, put color back into the world or get people out of pain, right? That's the purpose of this. But when you did this and this and this, how did that aid us in our purpose? Right? Because your job, the way you fit in this role is this. right? If you have those sorts of conversations with people and they go, well, I didn't because of this and this and this, typically they won't want to have those conversations. They will self-select out if they know their personality and their fit are not in the right role. So if you communicate correctly, a lot of these things can be avoided, but we have become communication adverse. So you need to make sure that you are a good communicator and that you act with integrity and you're a do as I do person and not a do
Yeah.
as I say person. Those 3 tips alone are going to help you transform your staff on that. You do need to have definite KPIs and deliverables for every single role. These are the things you're responsible for. This week, you hit this out of this task. Next week, we need you to do this because this is what's expected, right? And if you're just going through week and week, and then going, why is everything the same? Well, that's why everything is the same. Leadership is a driver. It is a driver of deliverables, a driver of outcomes, and it's also helping those people in seeing if there is a shortcome, then you help them. A lot of times, I wouldn't fire. I'm not as like, I will say, I'm going to give a little bit adverse to Tracy. I'm not a fire so quick if I know it was me. Some people do need a little bit of support and then they're on board. So you have to be radically honest with yourself and go, did I give them the tools that they needed? But don't do it in a thing where you're getting manipulated. There's always the other me, as long as you're in the happy medium between the person who gets manipulated into keeping people that really are just manipulating you, and then the person who gives no one anything and expects them to be perfect, right? There is a happy medium between that. So I would just go back to our things. Demonstrate integrity, be self-aware, don't lie to yourself, don't try to gaslight your own self about your ability, and be willing to learn and adapt and give that and communicate, that open communication. We
I
are at
think
the
when it comes to
end.
the communication, your meeting cadences come into play here. So every single person within the business, if it isn't you, it needs to be line manager. Every single person, every single week needs to have a one-on-one discussion based on their performance, the outcomes, and the objectives. Every single person. Now, if you have 30 people, clearly you can't be the person having all of those conversations. So that's when you start to look at management levels within the business. But hey, between let's say 4 and 6 people, and 6 is like a real stretch, that's going to be the comfortable number that you can lead effectively. So how often are you going to meet? What is that going to sound like? Because just saying, how are you doing? I'm doing great. Okay. Do you have any questions for me? No, everything's kind of going fine. That's not communicating, right? It's reporting back on what they're doing well, what they're struggling with, giving objective feedback on their performance, which means they need to know, how are you measuring their performance? Like, how do you know what objective means of measuring? Do you say, I'm doing really great because I did 10 client calls and 8 of them actually came in? You need to turn communication into objective measures. And that's just one, basic way to make sure that happens.
And that's it for this time. You've heard it. What we're going to do, you take these 10 minutes and put 10K into your business. Thank you guys so much. Have a Super Clinic week. Remember to go to superclinicproject.com if you have a specific challenge in your business and you want to get a free session with us. Click on our pictures on superclinicproject.com and go to us. Have a great week. Have a great Super Clinic week.
Thank you for listening to the Super Clinic Project podcast, Coach's Corner edition. If you would like to work with Jennifer or Tracy to 2 or 10x your business, then go to superclinicproject.com and click on either Jennifer or Tracy's photograph to book a complimentary session. Your greatest breakthrough is just a session away.